He has a giant face on his chest. I can't decide if that's cool or stupid. Hey guys, this is AwesomeJohn22 coming at you today with another review. Today we are taking a look at the Gosei Ultimate Megazord from Power Rangers Megaforce, known as Gosei Ultimate in Goseiger, I believe. As you can see here, we have it in its alternate mode, which is a mega ship similar to the one from Power Rangers in Space, and in fact, they actually use the term megaship when referring to it. I believe they call it the Gosei Ultimate Command Megaship or something along those lines. Harkening back to Power Rangers in Space, you can see we've got a nice size ship. My hand next to it, you can see it's pretty large. You can see Gosei Great Megazord standing over there. It's a pretty big ship, and we have it in this mode to start out because I do want to show off a combination feature in a moment. But first, let's take a look at the details on this thing. It's pretty much a brick. It doesn't do a whole lot. But as you can see, we've got some really nice striping down. It's this really cool, I don't know how well this is going to come across on camera, so let me zoom in for a second. It's this really cool, it's not gray plastic, it's actually got silver. It's got like a silver sheen to it, and it's not coming across very well. I'll see if I can clear up the contrast a little bit in editing, but it's really nice silver. Like all the plastic in these newer Power Rangers toys, it feels a little light, but at the same time it has some weight to it. So without actually handling them yourself, I'm not really sure if I can explain that properly, but it doesn't feel cheap, but at the same time it kind of feels like it is. But it's okay because it's hefty and solid, and it brings the cost down. This thing was, I don't remember the exact price anymore, but it wasn't too bad for a full Megazord. It was a good price. Taking a look on the sides here, you can see on each side we have two guns pointing forward. Looking at the top, you can see these gold sections, which we will get to in a moment. And you can see just how nice and large it is, and it's got this big, pop something out of place down there, this big triangular shape. You can see different colors for the Rangers down here. Wheels for it to roll on. It does roll. As you can see, looking at the side, you can kind of see one of the Ultra Zords down there, which we will again talk about in a moment. But first, let's bring in our friend over here. Gosei Great has kindly volunteered to take a break from being the Gosei the Gosei Ultra Zord to come over and show off his combination gimmick with Gosei Ultimate Megazord. Pan up just a little bit more. There we go. First of all, what we're going to do is we're going to take these back guns and pop them off of the Megaship. And while I'm doing this, I'm going to explain why it's called the Gosei Command Megaship. It is actually the top of their command center. Just, fun fact. We're going to take the wings and fold them back, I believe. Honestly, I don't know. This is like my first time doing this. I really suck at this, guys. Anywho, what we're going to do next is we're going to take the entire Megaship, and you can see this section here will fit into this hole in the back, and we have these clips down here which will clip in on the back of the Megazord's legs. And doing that, I see now that bringing the wings down was a very bad idea. But we're just going to keep going. We're going to keep trucking, because that's what I do. I make a fool of myself and then I ignore it. So, using the connector points that I just showed you, we attach this to the back, And I'm sure that they folded the wings back on the show. I'm sure they did. Anyway, you can now see we have the Gosei Great Megazord with a giant rocket pack. Now what we can also do is we can take these, which are the ultimate swords, I believe they're called, or something along those lines. And we can kind of, I say this, I use this term loosely, we can put them in his hands, but they don't stay very well. It's actually kind of better to just stick with his main weapon, because they can't really point forward, which is a bummer. My review of this guy is going to be overall pretty positive, but I just want to point out right here now that this bums me out. His swords bum me out. They were larger proportionately in the Japanese toy, I believe, and could connect better with stuff, especially this guy. And it bums me out that they're a little dinky and that they don't do what they're supposed to do for the American release. But as you can see, we do have this, and he is connected pretty well. It's not going to fall off. And what this does is allows him to fly at incredibly high speeds in the show. And it looks pretty cool too. It looks like he's got a giant freaking rocket pack on his back, which is pretty nice. But really, that's all that this thing does in relationship to other Zords. It is, first and foremost, its own Megazord. So we're going to take a look at that now. Moving Gosei Great off to the side, we can take a look at this whole thing. First, what we're going to do is we are going to fold the Ultra Zords in, which will give me an opportunity to talk about the other slight issue I have with this toy. So we're going to leave red kind of poking outward, so I can show you this in a second. That one's jammed. Yellow always gets stuck. There we go. And I want to point this out. These do not detach. They are stuck on there. Now I kind of understand why they did this. These serve absolutely no other function in relation to other Megazords. You can you could have, I guess, put them in place of these Zords on Gosei Great, but there would have been no point, because then you wouldn't have had room for the Zords that were on Gosei Great. So to actually make them part of the Megazord, I kind of see why they did it. They didn't want kids to lose them, and it kept them from having to mold additional separate pieces, I guess, too. But it kind of bums me out, because this guy's final attack, his victory charge, involves launching them off, and you can't mimic that if you can't remove them. But I digress. For red, we do have a little bit of transformation here. We are going to spread these crests and fold it down. You can see we have a big face in this kind of like petal formation that is supposed to represent Gosei, or I think his name was Great Head or something in the Japanese version. But anyway, that is the first step of the transformation. The second step, we're going to come back here, fold this whole section down, and rotate this panel, bringing it back up, and locking it in place. Now we're going to come here, and we are going to fold down these legs, and probably pop at least one of them off. Because if I had one legitimate complaint, not just nitpick about this thing to point out, it would be that the connection joints are a little loose, but it's alright. They go back on real easily too. Once we have the legs folded down, we're going to fold out the feet, and we're going to come up top here in the frame, split the arms, bring them down, not rotate them, and we're going to pull that out. It gets a little stuck. You can see it extends the arm. Rotate that down, bring that one notch forward into place. We're going to do the same thing over here. And there we go. And yeah, there we go. Finally, zooming in on the head. Not not that head, this head. There we go. We're going to bring this crest up, and then we're going to separate these side panels to reveal his face. He's got a nice head sculpt there with a nice golden crest up top. And looking at this mode, which is the final other mode of the Zord, I'm sure a lot of you can see why some people didn't like this thing. I would argue against people, you know, disliking the aesthetic of the other Zords of this season, but I can totally get why somebody wouldn't like this thing. It has a giant face on its chest. And I really genuinely can't decide if that's really cool or if that's really stupid. I personally think it's okay. I don't mind it. I don't particularly love it either, though. You can see in this mode, we don't really uncover any additional details, but as you saw from the transformation, he actually has a pretty decent range of articulation. He has knees, he has outward hips, but no forward and back movement. He does have a very limited bend at the elbow. He does have in and out movement at the shoulder, and his shoulders can do a full 360. Very good for a Sentai / Power Rangers figure, though it is to be expected on a figure like this, which transforms from itself into itself. It will have more moving joints and therefore more moving parts. Or is it the other way around? Either way, in this form, he can hold the two ultimate swords. I like to kind of angle his hands inward to show off the profile of the swords. And you can see they look exactly as dinky on this guy. So what I like to do, I like to put them in their second mode, rather, which is a bow, a laser bow, and kind of makes it look like, show it from the side, it's a better angle. Hear my dogs in the background there. I like to put it in the bow form because that way it looks like he's holding like an actual decent sized weapon, though actually an actual bow would probably be at least 3 times the length of this thing. He does keep his laser blasters from his ship mode on his arms here, but I never saw him use it in the show. What he does use in the show is the ultimate laser cannon or something like that, where he opens up these petals, the arms out of the way, and he can, here's something weird in the background, that's my phone turning off, I'm not sure why. You can see he has these 5 little laser blasters in his chest. Let me zoom in on them. This is like the first new detail in this mode. 5 laser cannons. He does fire lasers out of those, and they do hella damage. And like I said, in the show he can launch the 5 Ultra Zords off, which, fun fact, the Ultra Zords are also what the Rangers use to transform into their powered up mode, which I think they actually call Ultra mode, I'm not sure. Folding these back in, very simple, pretty cool gimmick. Even though it doesn't actually do anything or shoot anything, it looks pretty cool, and this guy does look pretty spot on his appearance in the show. And I can't really fault him for much. He's pretty good looking toy. He had minimal coloring in the show, so his minimal paint with just the red and the gold on the silver plastic works. And even though the majority of his paint, the colored portions of these Ultra Zords, is hidden most of the time, it's still there, and it's nice to look at. And overall, with Megaforce having been around now for as long as it has, I would certainly recommend picking this guy up. If you can still find him somewhere, retail, which I see him retail pretty often around where I live here in Cincinnati, Ohio. If you can find him retail somewhere, definitely pick him up. His price will be down enough by now that it shouldn't be very difficult to afford him. And I think he's definitely worth it. He has an aesthetic and a name that kind of is reminiscent of Power Rangers in Space, which I believe personally is one of the best Power Rangers. He looks pretty good. Again, the silver color of the plastic isn't showing up very well on camera. I'm not sure why that is. But I promise you, it looks very good. The gold on his chest, you can see, has a nice sheen to it. I can see it right now in the camera. Zoom in a little bit. You can see it's very reflective, very nice. And, I mean, if you've been collecting... Fix my camera. If you've been collecting Megaforce Zords anyway, this guy is the final one. It's what you need to complete your collection. So definitely pick it up on those grounds alone if you've been a collector so far. I'll admit, that's the reason I picked this thing up in the first place. I didn't expect to like it. Thought it looked pretty lame. Then I got it. Then I saw it on the show. And then I was super glad I'd gotten it. Because on the show, it is pretty badass. But yeah. Really though, it's up to you. Like I said, it's got an odd aesthetic. Not everyone likes it, and I can certainly appreciate that. If you are one of those people who just does not like the giant face on its chest, I completely understand. Do what you want. Do what you need. I'm not going to get in your way. For a size comparison real quick of the Megazord mode, we'll bring in our friend Gosei Great Megazord again. And I'm going to admit, leaving this guy on the shelf for so long, I really missed him. I'm going to go play with this thing for a while. I also want to point out real quick, I don't know how I'm supposed to show this on camera. This guy is heavier than Gosei Great. I know I talked about Gosei Great and how it felt a little light when I was playing with it, but also pretty solid. This guy also feels pretty light, but he is not as light as Gosei Great. That's important. They've just within the same line, they've really increased quality. Just throwing that out there. But yeah, you can see Gosei Ultimate Megazord is a little bit taller than Gosei Great Megazord. Let's see, what else should I do? I should probably show off the gimmick here with the swapping limbs. Again, I know I showed this for Legendary Megazord last week, but let's show it again here. They can share limbs between the two Zords. Which, actually, I just now realized if the combination mode were in robot mode, Gosei Great Megazord could definitely wield Gosei Ultimate's weapons, because he could just use his arms. I might create a fan mode around that. We'll have to see. If I do, I'll talk about it. Anyway, you can see they do swap limbs using these same universal ports that have been showing. It's really tight. That have been showing up on all of the recent Zords, so you can get some pretty cool combinations going, even across seasons if you want to. Which I also mentioned during my Legendary Megazord review last week. I gotta stop bumping my camera. Somebody remind me to stop bumping my camera in the comments. Anyway, but yeah, that's about it. Can't think of anything else to say about this guy. I've been really working to remember all the important things like detail and articulation and stuff like that in my review. And I think I covered all that. I zoomed in on the face and showed you the details on the face and showed you the articulation. Going on the mental checklist here. But yeah, just cannot think of anything else to say. So we're going to wrap this review up. Leave a like, subscribe, leave a comment down below if you feel so inclined. In the description down below, there is a link to my blog as well as to my collections video. Check out the latter. If you see something there that you'd like me to review, let me know. I'll see what I can do about it. This has been Awesome John 22, and I will talk to you guys later.